live.
Hello, everyone. We're live. We're live. Yay. Yeah, we might be a couple of minutes late, but please forgive us. You know, we can never juggle tech the way we exactly want to. Sometimes there are little glitches in our tech. And so here we are. We made it. So, oh my gosh. Woo! So here we are at this pop-up chat with the Life, Love, and Money Show with Summer and Jen. And today we're going to be talking about missteps. Oh gosh. Okay.
I love this word. It's so much nicer than the one I want to say. Yeah.
I know, right? Because you could say the F word, but I mean failure, right? Surprise.
That's one of the words.
Oh my goodness. Well, okay. So we've all had them, right? We've all been there. What is a misstep? It's a mistake. It's something we've done wrong. It's something that, we thought maybe we do a certain way and it didn't turn out the right way, or we made a decision about something and it just wasn't the right decision. It wasn't maybe a good decision. But here's the thing, folks. It's okay. We are all human. We're human. And if you think that you're not ever going to make a misstep, all right, come sit with me then. We need to talk.
You don't have enough. I have some to give you.
Oh, I have enough too, so it's like, oh gosh, we do not go, through this journey, through our lives without having one or two or four or 10 or 50. So it's like, we have them. And so the first thing is, when you have a misstep, recognize it. Just recognize it. Recognize that misstep and maybe what that looks like for you and how you feel, and stay in that moment. Just recognize it, not to beat yourself up over it, but to recognize it. So it's so important. So I would say recognize it, accept it, and admit it. So a lot of times our ego can get in the way, our AKA pride can get in the way. I mean, I've been there before. As Jen likes to say, we're Aries.
There's a lot of that. It's always in the way, and sometimes it just stays there.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm telling you, we have, we're the sign of the ram, and sometimes we can be really headstrong. Sometimes. So, and we like our way. And you have to look at your personality, you have to look at your personal traits and say, what could be getting in the way? Why did this happen? Do some internal exploration and really kind of dig deeper and understand why that misstep happened, because that's really important. But first, recognize and accept it. Yes, it happened. Yes, I am guilty of having a misstep. What are your thoughts, Jen?
I like that we are talking about recognizing it and also understanding that the ego and pride does get in the way. I think too often I see people just going past that moment, almost to this state of denial. Like they don't want to acknowledge it. And I think there, I used to think that phrase, feel the feelings. I used to think that was a weird phrase. You've heard of that, where people go, feel
No, I never. No.
Oh, really? Yeah, I've heard people say that. And I'm like, what the heck does that mean? Feel the feelings. But as we're talking about this, I think that's what that is. It's whenever you are going through, a sad moment, or you're frustrated, or you're hurt, whatever, I think it's so important, like you said, just stop and recognize like what's happening. I think too often we're trying to just get past it. And I get it. We want to move to a different place. But I think there's some value in stopping and recognizing and thinking to yourself and doing that reflection. Like, okay, I'm in this moment right now. This is what's happening. What can I do about it? And then also, when you think about it, there's also that ego and that pride, where I know for me personally, I'll share that ego and that pride is a lot of times in the past what has prevented me from recognizing what's happening, from preventing me from stopping and pausing, because I would so quickly brush it off, like, I'm okay, you know, like, oh, whatever, I'm like, time to move on. And a lot of times we see that stuff, especially in social media with memes and different things and advice where it's just like, get up and, keep going, don't stay down. And I get that. I think there's value and an importance in not staying in that space. But I think it's very important to pause and stop while you are in that space to recognize what's going on. Because I'll tell you what happens to me. If I don't do that and I just keep moving forward, I don't take the time to stop and learn the lesson at that moment, and I will repeat it. Yes. I will end up repeating it because I didn't stop to think, because I was too stuck in my pride and my ego thinking like, well, I got this, nothing's going to keep me down. And it's that prideful attitude that actually can hold us back. I think all the things, our traits and our qualities, there are good things and there's negative things that when you use it for good, it can propel you forward. But if you don't recognize how, the other side of things, it actually serves as something that can hold you back. And many times, many times, and my mishaps, mistakes, failures, F-ups, whatever, it's like, I have recognized many times, like, yeah, man, I was so prideful, man, my ego got in the way. And I see how I would be stuck in a pattern and repeating that because I wasn't taking the time to, what you said, recognize.
Yeah. I love that, Jen, and all that explanation, because that's so true. Our ego and pride can really get in the way, and we have to look at our personalities and really come to terms with, okay, this is a what we call a trait in the clinical world, a trait of your personality, and that trait can help or hinder you many times. And that can be a very strong trait. And those sometimes can be the cause of maybe a potential misstep. And so it's really important to evaluate your personality, your behavior, your thoughts, your actions, all that good stuff when you're looking at your missteps. Because as Jen said, I know I've been where she's been, where I'm just like, you know what? F it. I'm done. Okay. And I'm like, and I'll turn around and I'll walk off because I'm like really strong. And pride, that's ego. And I have time to wind down. But in the meantime, I may have hurt somebody. I may have like said something, that wasn't right, or that wasn't. And we've all been there. Mm-hmm. And yet it's like coming back and going, okay. And it's not swallowing crow. It's not, it's none of that. It's more along the lines of reflecting and being and maneuvering and behaving in a different way. And so when you can do that, you're constructing new habits too. And you're also serving as a model for somebody else that maybe sees that, or even like, let's say your partner, right? Your partner, your business partner, your friends, your family, whatever that may be. But admit it, accept it. I'm not telling you to wallow in it. I'm saying reflect on it. And a lot of times we are spinning so fast. Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
I always have the sign Core Women or Life, Love, and Money behind me. I was about ready to point to Core Women. And the reason I say that is because the K in Core Women is for kinetic. How do we, through movement, how do we kinetically connect? And how are we kinetically connecting with ourselves? How are we stopping? Because we're going so fast and we want to get so much accomplished and we want to do A, B, and C. And it's like, how do you actually just breathe? How do you calm yourself down and focus and get centered? Because a lot of times these mishaps or these missteps can actually happen in a world of flurry, right? Yeah. And so it's like you may not even recognize that happened. And then somebody may even bring it to your attention and you may be set off because you might be like, oh my gosh, I didn't do that. Or, really, you that's how you perceive me. And it might have just happened that way. And it is about some other people's perceptions potentially.
Oh gosh.
Right? And it's
I think that's where a lot of that's where a lot of things can go awry, because, and I roll my eyes because I deal with this all the time, every day. It's like I realize when somebody is bringing their baggage, bringing their past experiences, their past, relationships with family, parents, ex-partners, whatever you may call it. And it's interesting when we don't have awareness and mindfulness that we either just look at the perspective lens that like, you don't understand me, or that's not what it is, or whatever it is. It's like, okay, well, you don't get that this is coming from your past and you're bringing that into this. So yeah, that's a whole other topic.
Well, let me put this in there, because I'm saying awareness and mindfulness is important to recognize, or to so how would you put that? Awareness and mindfulness is important when going through a situation.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of times we forget, and we get so wrapped up into that situation, right? And when you get wrapped up into that situation, you're not able to take a step back or take a step outside of the situation and have some objectivity. And that objectivity is so critical. Sometimes it means that you need to ask somebody for, some guidance. Sometimes that means you just need to take a deep breath. Sometimes that means you need to journal. Sometimes that means, I've heard you say this before, Jen, and I think this is absolutely awesome. Sometimes you just need to change your environment, and you need to go take a walk. You need to go exercise. You need to go do something that switches that switch, right? That clicks off that switch and says, okay, I need to wind down. I need to be in the moment. I need to be mindful.
Yeah. So. And it is hard. I will say it's hard sometimes when I'm even doing that, and I'm having to remind myself a lot of things too. You know what we say, I take it to heart. I put it into practice. This is not just us spewing things we've read and just reading our notes to you guys. It's like, I actually have to like, I gotta do this myself. And in those moments, especially when I'm mad, I want to keep going down that, that fiery path. But I realize that's not going to help anything. And it's hard especially for Aries, it's hard to like, just calm down, to calm down. And I tell people all the time, I'm like, if you see me, get like I'm laughing because I'm thinking, like when you watch like movies with like a serial killer, not that I'm that psychotic, but it's like when you watch movies with a serial killer, they're like that creepy silent. And right. Yeah, and then I have to do that where I just get real quiet. So I'm like, yeah, if I get real quiet, it's so that the wrath doesn't come out. But I have to intentionally make that decision to become and put myself at that state where I'm calming down. I don't want to fly off the handle. I want to just reflect on what's happening here. What is the lesson that what is the wisdom I can gain from this? And all at the same time, trying not to get even more pissed off. It's hard because there's like so many emotions. Like, this like, your butterflies in formation. Like the butterflies are going crazy right now. And it's just, it's so important for us to have that mindfulness and that awareness. And to change that physical environment, because it will have a direct effect on helping you change the internal dialogue, the internal physiology that's happening. And then it's just like, wow, this is like interesting how this works. And then you even breathing. Summer talked about breathing often. Yeah. That also, especially when you're having these missteps right before you're trying to go to bed. Oh my goodness, how many times have I had to do the forced deep breathing?
That way down breathing, that deep breath, and you take it in and you hold it and then you let it out slowly. I mean, even for 9-10 seconds, whatever you can do, but do a few of those. You know what? I do that at the doctor because I get white coat syndrome. And so I get really nervous because I'm like, oh God, now what? What's going to happen now? Right. And so I have to actually sit there and breathe, take those 3 or 4 breaths in. I don't have many phobias or fears. I really don't, except that's one of them, because, and that goes back, and I'll tell you why. That goes back into way back into my history and having multiple surgeries and starting out very early on. And so I know where that comes from. And this is what we're saying. Realize where this is coming from. Understand the why. Recognize the misstep. Admit the misstep. It's okay. It's okay to have that. It is absolutely okay. You know why? Because I say missteps are some of the best learning opportunities. Some of the best learning opportunities. They are an opportunity to look at what happened and to do something strategically different, to create a new habit, to understand your past, and that is okay to have that misstep. We all have them. Oh my gosh, if we were to say that we didn't have them, what?
First off, if you aren't doing that, that means you're not being mindful. That's what that is. Then rewind 5 minutes ago.
Yes, and don't be afraid to have them. Being an entrepreneur, we may have a flub, a misstep, a total F up, you name it. Okay. But we go back and what do we do? Jen, what do we do all the time? We re-strategize. All the time. Yeah. And that is what this is about. You can be mindful. You can accept the misstep. You don't have to wallow in the misstep. You can recognize the misstep. You can take it as a learning lesson. You can apply it. And here's the next step. You ready for this one?
I am.
Okay. How are you going to be resilient? How are you going to get up? How are you going to get back up? Because a lot of times we all want to win. We want to be successful. And those are great steps. Let me tell you, it feels good to be in that success. It feels good to have, things going right. Trust me, we love it. But when you have that misstep, sometimes it's about how do you get back up? How do you not stay in that place? And as Jen said, one of those things is changing maybe your environment. But also one of the things too is changing that environment, but also being very, very mindful of, yes, you've changed your environment and yes, you're upset. But here's the thing, when somebody walks off or somebody says, I need a break, it's okay for them to take that break. It's okay for them to just walk off for a minute and say, I'm going to come back. Say, you're going to come back. Or, I need to regroup and come back to this because there was a misstep and I need to understand what my misstep was. Because my mom used to always say, and this is one good lesson that I learned from her, is she used to say, it's okay to go away. It's okay to go up into your room, but leave your door open, knowing that you're going to come back out. You're going to get back out.
Oh, I love that.
We're going to reconnect.
Sometimes I don't want to leave the door open.
I know. Sometimes we don't. And sometimes it's really hard. And that's where boundaries come in. I mean, if that misstep happens and you really are like, okay, I feel strongly about that. That's where the next, some of the reflection part of that is where are your boundaries and all of that? Yeah. And how are you going to set that up? That's part of the re-strategizing.
Yeah.
So I think these are all really good points. And yeah, Jen, sometimes we don't want to keep that door open. I mean, I've been there where we've also had to set those boundaries and I'm like, nope, that door's going to remain shut.
Yeah. I love that you brought up the concept of boundaries again. I think it's such a great point that we have to remember. Oftentimes, I think, especially depending on how you grew up, and we've talked about this many, many times, is that we sometimes feel that guilt and that shame and feeling bad. Like, I think sometimes we grow up feeling, oh, I need everything to work out. I need to make everything better. And unfortunately, sometimes it's to the detriment of your own well-being, where there are unhealthy situations or unhealthy relationships. And when we don't have those boundaries, we keep leaving that door open for it, but we keep getting hurt. And we've been sometimes programmed, depending, I know in, certain cultures, especially like I can even think about it, even in my own Filipino background, you'll hear things like, oh, it's okay. You just never mind that. And you're often told like to just brush it aside. And it's like the weirdest thing as you become older and you start to formulate your own philosophies and thoughts, you start to realize like, wait a minute, like that doesn't make any sense. Or wait a minute, I don't agree with that. And, I've had these conversations, with one of my aunts, and even her, she was born in the Philippines, but she went to college out here in the United States. So she's had both perspectives, and even her and I were having, and she's in her late 50s, and she and I had these conversations about, why is it in our family we hide things, or we don't talk about certain things, and she wants to change that narrative because she has two grown daughters that already graduated from college. And so I said, yeah, I go, you're so right. And I so appreciated that she saw that. So this thing with the boundaries is so important, that we don't have to feel like we have to allow everything to remain open, because it continues to hurt us. And sometimes, the person on the other side of the door, you can't reason with them.
Yeah.
Or they're closed-minded. And so this is where it's important for us to recognize, like, it's time to shut that door. And going back to this concept of, missteps, part of the success is to recognize, when do you need to set up those boundaries? And understanding, like, if you want to continue to be successful, or you want that narrative to change, if you don't put those boundaries up, you're going to continuously allow yourself to be held back.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And so if you don't put those boundaries up, or you don't recognize the lessons, the wisdom that you can gain from these missteps, you're going to feel that you're stuck in this pattern. And I'm speaking from experience. There were all these things I'm saying, I'm talking from experience, relationships I didn't let go of. I should have done it sooner, much sooner, by years, repeating the same mistakes. And it's one of those moments that, I beat myself up for a little bit, and then I realized, okay, stop. What am I learning from this? And that's why I love everything you said, Summer. It's like, yeah, when I finally took the time to set the ego and pride aside and recognize, like, I'm continuously hurting myself, figuratively speaking, and not stopping to see what's going on and learning the lesson, instead of just keep going a million miles an hour. It was only at that moment I was like, oh my gosh, this is why I'm so far behind, because I keep allowing this person to stay in my life. I keep allowing these situations to keep happening. It's like, well, no freaking wonder I can't concentrate on my business and my work and where I need to be. And that's what continuously held me back. So as you can see, guys, if you were watching this in the replay, this all ties together. It's like, well, what does this got to do? Because everything the thing when I hear, like, it's personal, it's not business, it's like, what, we live in a day and age that is all intertwined now. Mm-hmm. I don't think there is this harsh delineation like we used to talk about this in the past.
Yeah, there's a lot of overlap. Right? A lot of overlap.
Has become so personal now, because, like, her and I are very close. So someone and I are very close now, but we are also partners. Yeah. Your closest friends become the people you talk to about your business. Yeah. Your closest friends become the people that you had been sharing your thoughts and ideas, programs, strategies. Hey, I'm stuck. What do I do? What would you do? And I talk more to my business friends than my regular friends, but those people have become my closest friends.
Yeah.
And you can't conduct business anymore without thinking that you can't bring that personal touch in there anymore, and building those relationships. Because Summer has also talked about, it's about relationships. It's not just about creating a network.
Yeah.
I mean, that, you always hear those phrases about, you do business with people you like, know, and trust. It's like, well, how the heck do you think that's going to happen if you don't become friends?
Right. Oh, absolutely. Right? And I love what you're saying here, Jen. I'm going to step in here for a sec, because I love what you're saying about the overlap between, business and your personal life. And we're talking about missteps and who you can talk to. And I love that you brought that up, because we have outlets, right? It's so important to have those outlets, and so important to have people that in your life that you can talk to and gain objectivity from. And I also liked what you talked about in relation to, setting up those boundaries. I've had friends, I've been in situations in friendship type of relationships where it's like, oh my gosh, it's so important for me to set the boundaries and to shut those doors on some of those relationships, because they were so unhealthy for me that I knew that if I continued with that, I'd continue to make the same mistakes, and maybe a really regretful one down the road. And how would that personally affect me? So knowing that you just do that personal reflection, understand your emotions attached to the steps that you've taken, and the missteps, the successes and your missteps, and move forward with setting boundaries, understanding, acceptance, putting the ego and pride aside, or actually working through that ego and pride and saying, how can I understand this ego and pride better so that ego and pride dissipates? Right. And so it's always going to be there to a certain degree, because again, we're human, and that's part of our makeup, because we're proud and we have some ego. But how much of that do you want to to in kind of intertwined into your story, into your journey? Do you want it to be a different journey? And ego and pride are not necessarily the best aspects of a journey. So,
Oh, yeah.
and so here's the thing too. I think we all have stories. We all have our missteps. We all have had various things happen to us. It's not to beat ourselves up over it. It's to take these as lessons and apply those lessons to our next steps, to our life, to our journey, and what we want that to look like and how rewarding we want that to be and feel. And I just love what you said about that intertwine between business and, Jen, we're always talking about the story, right?
Yes.
The story in business. What do you think we want that? That's because we want to know about you. We want to know about the good things, the missteps, how you got from A to Z.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't mean that it's like, oh gosh, this happened overnight. Oh my goodness. Did it really? Did it really? Because I know there's a lot of work that happened behind the scenes. I can tell you that every single thing that Jen and I do, it is both trial and error, it's strategy, it's habit, it's scheduling, it's a lot of talking. There's a lot of work that goes in behind the scenes, and not everything comes off the way we plan.
Yeah. Oh goodness.
Give you
I
an
love
example
it.
today.
Yeah, there's so many things. I laugh with happy laugh, thinking about I think about all the different versions of things we've gone through, and then like, oh, we had to change this. Okay, that didn't work. Okay, let's try this now. Okay, like now let's try it this way, and that's just how it is. I mean,
Yeah.
when you can accept that that is part of the journey, all these missteps, when you can accept that this is part of it, that you can accept that this is how you learn and grow. Those are the opportunities for us to learn and grow when we have those missteps. And again, if you can set aside the ego and the pride and accept that you live on planet Earth where mistakes happen, but look at those mistakes as a way to improve and get better and to understand, oh, this is feedback. Okay, we need to go this way now. Okay, well, all right, that didn't work either. So let's go this way. And then sometimes we have to decide also, is it that we don't go this way now, but we stay here and try again and again and again? And there are so many different aspects to the things that we're building and growing right now that for some things we have completely changed directions, and for some things we had to just stick it through.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where, you have to also decide, like, this is going to just require some patience and nurturing. So it's not always constantly changing like a pinball machine, ding 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 ding. There's sometimes it's like, no, we just need to stick this through. We need to see how this works, because there's just going to be some things in your business or whatever it is that you're doing where it's just you being required to have some patience, which we don't have. And so we have to.
Yes, we do.
Some, but we recognize that. Okay, so we recognize that, and we like, okay, no, we just have to watch the numbers. Okay, we have to just try this. Okay, we just have to hang in there and be patient. It's like a garden, right? You don't just throw the seeds and then they're going to sprout like 10 feet sunflowers that are super super tall. It doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, but when you can accept it and look at all this from the lens of, hey, this is all part of it. This is how we get better. This is how we can keep moving in the right direction. You absorb those missteps in a different manner. It's how you decide to choose how to handle it. How do you react to it? How do you respond to it? Those types of things. Like, how are you going to take it when it happens? Are you going to choose to just let yourself be down and beat yourself up, or are you going to look at it as like, stop and pause? And I think this is why it's so important. If you didn't hear this earlier, just join us now. Go to the beginning. We're talking about how important it is for you to stop and pause and become mindful and aware of, okay, what's going on here? Where does this come from? Why am I feeling like this? Like, I am constantly looking at my triggers.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good one. Looking at triggers. But I do want to go back, and I want to just kind of go through the missteps or the strategy in relation to like understanding your missteps. So the way that you can turn this into a success is really recognizing the misstep, breathing through the misstep, understanding the misstep, accepting the misstep, asking yourself, what went wrong? What went wrong? How can I use this misstep as a lesson? How can I use this for forward momentum? Don't be afraid to have a misstep. We all have them. Missteps are, as I said, our best teachers. They are absolutely a lesson. And it doesn't mean a lesson to beat yourself up or wallow in, but yeah, stay there for a minute, work through it, understand it, breathe through it, because we're all human and we're prone to them. And just consider this one of your best teachers. Missteps can always be those teachers, and they're your opportunity to employ new strategy, to employ new habits, to employ all these amazing things that you wouldn't necessarily get from a success. So remember, they are your best teachers. And with that said, I think we've covered so much here today. So thank you, Jen. Thank you, everybody out there who joined us. This was a terrific conversation. And if you missed any of this, or if you want to hear more from us in regards to new topics, different subjects regarding emerging entrepreneurship, love, life, you name it, please go check out our YouTube page. And with that said, we want to say thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have an amazing one.
Thank you.